Hey man, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Not bad. Let's jump into this busy week of news. Just to kind of give you an idea of the difference in this week and last week. Last week was like I was away for most of the week, and then like you were kind of just catching me up on what was going on. And when you told me that Microsoft was buying TikTok, that was just like blew my mind. This week, if you just paid attention to like only Tuesday, you got all of the week's worth of news before lunchtime, including a very short-lived story about Apple buying TikTok.
Yeah, that was a slice of time, right?
Yeah, so this is all before lunchtime on Tuesday. So we're gonna pretty much this week we're gonna talk about what happened on Tuesday. Let's kick us off. We've got the first state that is finally using Apple's exposure notification API. This is for contact tracing for COVID-19 exposure. And the idea is that back in like April and May, Apple and Google worked together to create this API that works on iOS and Android so that apps can give smartphone users the ability to know to opt into a system to say, I want to be notified if someone that I'm in Bluetooth range of for just a moment is test positive for COVID-19. There were a few countries that supported this in the last month or so. There's been 0 of 50 states that have supported it until this week. There were 4 of 50 states who said that they would support it. And then there was like a bunch of states that are like, no way, never, for whatever reason. As of this week, there's a single state, Virginia, which was the fourth of the 4 states to say that they would participate. They now have their app that people can actually go to the app store, download, and use. And so as long as you stay in Virginia and you don't travel to like I don't know any neighboring states or anything, then you're okay. And you encourage people to use this. So they've got adoption above 0%, but not quite all 50 states yet.
Yeah, I mean, it means you can update your article for the first time,
I
which
did, yeah.
which is nice. It's like slow progress. Apparently today as well, there was news that the UK's almost ready to release their app again. This time using the Apple and Google API, so that'd be good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Alabama was one of the 4 states as well, and they said that I think that there's some progress there too. I don't think it's like live in the App Store yet, but I've heard from people who are at least testing it. And by testing, it just means I don't know, installing it on your phone, and that's about all you can do unless you, well, I think that's all you can do, but that's what it's for. And so I was happy to see that at least one state does, and I'm hoping that this is just for the first of many, and that all of those no response states that those they just didn't talk about it, and that they have support coming as well.
Yeah, I mean, we kept complaining that no one was doing it, so I thought it was good to just flag up that now, the US is on the board.
Yeah, it's one of the first U.S. states is one of the first U.S. states to do this. I thought that was nice and poetic. And then we've got the fourth beta version of iOS 14 that came out this week. There's also a new version of macOS Big Sur in the beta version. But the beta version of iOS 14 adds, I guess it's the first to add exposure notifications in beta, and then also elevates where you can find that setting or explanation for it.
Yeah. So it's good timing. Like the US gets an exposure notification app, and the iOS 14 beta has finally actually integrated the API because it came to 13.5 right ages ago, and the iOS 14 beta just didn't have it yet. Obviously, when Apple's developing these things, they run on different tracks, and so it takes a while to re-merge the branches essentially internally. And so finally now with beta 4, the exposure notification API is available to use, so all of the apps around the world work again on iOS 14. And yeah, they've actually elevated the prominence of the settings. So the COVID-19 notifications used to be hidden in like settings, general, privacy, health, exposure notifications. Right now that it's like almost top level, like you're not going to miss it. So it's probably good because it was pretty hidden before, and I think they've also like expanded some of the language on the screens and stuff to try and make it a bit more obvious exactly what's going on, because unfortunately there's still a lot of confusion out there about what can these things access. The Apple and Google API is getting criticism for invading your privacy because people see it show up in their settings app, but they don't understand how it works properly. So anything they can do just to like raise the prominence of it definitely helps.
Yeah. And then you've got a big new feature in iOS 14 that addresses one of your concerns, the TV app.
Oh
So
yeah, the TV
I
app's completely
assume
different. No,
I
it's not.
assume this resolves all of your critique of the TV app.
No, the TV app is unfortunately identical, but they have added a widget. So if you want to see your up next queue, you can now by putting it on your home screen. You can it supports all of the three different sizes. You can just have a single tile, or you can have a bigger tile which shows like the next episode of the show you most recently watching, and then like I think two suggestions as well from your queue. So it's a nice widget actually, and this is the final widget that Apple had shown off at
Ah.
WWDC is now available in the betas because they didn't like make a big deal about this one, but when they were showing like picture in picture or something, the TV widget was just on the screen at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and so we saw them add the clock widget with beta 3, and
Mm-hmm.
now the TV widgets here in beta 4. There are no more widgets that Apple showed that they yet to include. There may be some more to add. I really think they should bring back like a contacts widget because the previous versions of iOS for like the phone app, it would show you like your favorite contacts, and you could just tap and immediately do a phone call. There isn't a phone widget at the moment on iOS 14. I think that's kind of an omission because it would be nice if you could just have quick launches for your four favorite people or something in your favorites
Mm-hmm.
list in the app, but that's not there. I have been using the clock app since it came out.
Clock widget, yeah.
The clock widget, yeah, the clock widget. Yeah, obviously been using the clock app since the dawn of time. But the clock widget, clock widget is kind of funny because in the last beta, it was very bugged in that it would literally just go out of sync with the actual time. So the clock app icon would show the right time, the status bar would show the right time, but the widget could be like hours apart. Like I saw it once where it was like midday, and the clock widget was telling me it was 7:30. So clearly there was some bug there, and now on beta 4 we'll have to see if that's ironed out because like most of the widgets in the system respect like the API restrictions because basically these widgets have like a budget for how often they can update, so you're not going to get that many widgets that are super dynamic with constantly refreshing information. The clock widget is like special because it's actually updating every millisecond, right? Because you see the hand constantly moving, so there's no like API restriction why it should be able to get out of sync so much because this, they're special casing it anyway. But for whatever reason, at least in the last beta, it was just bugged to the point of telling you the wrong time, which is kind of the point of the clock widget.
Yeah, I've got a new favorite widget this week, which is the Photos widget, but on the Mac. Because we talked about it on the iPhone, where it's like, you know, it's really great when it picks the right photo for you, but you can't select like a specific album, for example. So it might present something that isn't very timely for you. But on the Mac, the widgets are in the same thing as Notification Center, and I've just got it kind of like below notifications where widgets go, and then below the three other widgets that I use: reminders, calendar, and then I'm looking at stocks in the moment because weather you can't stay up to date just to fill space. But it just kind of like it peeks out in the corner, like, and then I scroll up to the whole picture and with more context, and that I'm kind of enjoying. It's just like a nice little touch there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to enjoy the Photos widget.
Mhm.
No, that would be one of the ones that you see like normal people put on their home screens on the iPhone and stuff, just because people like seeing their photos. That's just
Mhm. And
and
it's
it does a good job of recommending like memories and events
yeah.
and pictures of your kids and birthdays and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
it's nice.
Yeah, yeah, these widgets are going to be very cool when they come out, and I hope obviously they'll get better than they are in the beta. But I'm looking forward to whenever all of our favorite third-party apps have widgets as well, because I think so many needs will be addressed then that aren't yet. Because right now it's pretty limited to what stock, but it'll just be like just like you have apps on your app on your iPhone, you'll have widgets that are paired from the app. So maybe not all at once, but soon. So. All right. Speaking of new stuff, this week we got some new Mac updates, and Mayo, I think is your camera sharper this week on the YouTube version? I think you look like you're in full HD now. Did
Still the
did,
same
did you go
2016
did,
webcam.
did you go from 720p to 1080p like the new
I did not.
iMac?
I did not change my webcam this
My
week.
webcam is 4K, but I'm not sure that I do anything in 4K with it. We stream it at 720p. So, yeah. So we have a new 27-inch iMac, which we'll talk more about in a moment. There are changes to the 21.5-inch iMac. As much as the changes to the 27-inch are small, the changes to the 21.5-inch is like on par with what we saw with the Mac Mini
Yeah.
before. And then the iMac Pro it's the same model, but it has a higher floor now than it used to have. So I think that those we have to acknowledge them because they are changes. Like if you're a new customer, then you get a better product than you would before. And because the alternative is just never updating them and letting them just kind of languish without taking them off the market, then it's something. But the 21.5 inch iMac and the iMac Pro, those updates are on par with like what we saw with the Mac Mini whenever Apple just kind of doubled the storage on those. But also like that's also a move that they like showed off with the Mac Pro before the new Mac Pro came out was like we're just gonna like raise the floor of what a Mac Pro is for the same prices. So it's not like a sign of investment, certainly.
Yeah, like they did that with the Mac Pro, and they've done that here again with the iMac Pro because it used to start at an 8-core version, and now everything's identical, all the prices are the same, but now the base model $4,900 one is the 10-core version instead. So you're
So that
literally just getting no, it's not like the newer generation or anything. It's the same generation, just the 10-core model instead of the 8-core model. So that does raise a question about the future of the iMac Pro itself. Obviously, it was released in 2017 and it hasn't received any update in that interim period. We wouldn't really call this an update. They're just kind of like letting it bob along a bit. Is there a place for it in the future? Like it was already like a high-end iMac, really, just with the Xeon, right? And so whether they call it, iMac or iMac Pro is probably irrelevant in the scheme of things, right? Like at the end of the day, you get 10 gig Ethernet and you get the nice space gray color, and you get obviously they have better cooling because it has the Xeon chips inside. But I think they could drop the branding and just have, in the future, ARM-based high-end iMacs that are really powerful. Like I don't think they're like super attached to the iMac Pro name,
with
or
color
they could just keep
choices.
iMac Pro around, and it's basically just a supercharged spec. Like they didn't even when they made the iMac Pro. It's not like they went out of their way to invest in an entirely new chassis design, right? The
Right.
exterior of the iMac Pro is identical. You get better cooling, and they have much better fans and stuff. And it would be nice if that thermal system came to the consumer ones, but that hasn't happened either. But it's not like the Mac Pro where and I'm talking about the trash can Mac Pro, where they went all in on this entirely new design and they committed so much to it. They kind of like were kind of forced into playing the card, even though it very quickly became problematic for them, and that left the Trashcan Mac Pro being, sold for 8 years, basically 6 years, with no changes and just kind of bobbing along. I don't think the iMac Pro will live that long in this form. Either they're going to remove it entirely, or it will switch to ARM silicon, within a year or two.
Yeah, it's like the iMac catches up to it, and then it doesn't have a purpose.
Yeah, I mean, even on
And
this
they're getting close
generation,
with this version. Yeah.
yeah, right. Like, I think the only reason they even went from 8-core to 10-core is because the new CPUs in the 27-inch get it so close anyway that, like, the base 27 inches would have started beating the iMac Pro. So that's why they just at least, bumped it up one notch so it could still retain a kind of pro demeanor.
Yeah, and those are good changes whenever they raise what the floor is for what if you're a brand new consumer and you go to buy something or you're just like looking for you want to buy that product and you don't have a reason to upgrade. Well, now you get a better product for the same amount of money. For the 21.5 inch iMac, it's a tremendous deal because I've not had to use a hard disk drive or even a Fusion drive computer in a long, long time, but when I did, it was painful. Being like a 2012 Mac Mini, I think was the last time that I did, and I upgraded that. And just going from a spinning hard drive to a flash drive and a flash storage drive inside was like night and day difference. So I can't imagine what performance is like these days on a spinning hard drive. And so by discontinuing all Fusion drives and
Almost.
almost all Fusion drives, then that product becomes a lot better for just
Yeah, so
you walk in and you buy one consumer.
So before today, incredibly, the base 21.5-inch configurations that you buy from the Apple Store would come with 5400 RPM hard drives.
Which isn't even the fastest speed of a spinning hard drive, right?
No, because the iMac always used basically like laptop hard drives for whatever reason, and laptops know they don't come with hard drives. Like Apple started doing all solid state machines with the 2012 MacBook Pro. 2012, by the way, that's 8 years ago. But the iMac was like, you want some hard drives? Here you go. So they carried on shipping spinning hard drives literally up until this year. And they did offer SSDs as config options, but the base models were all spinning hard drives, which is incredibly dated and arcane, right? And
I
so
mean, they
what they've done,
stopped selling the iPod Classic with the hard drive in it because they couldn't get parts for it. Like, it's possible they just couldn't get parts to keep doing these configurations of iMacs.
yeah, like it's pretty rough. So what you now get as standard on the 21.5-inch iMacs is 256 gig SSDs, which is pretty low. The base model, if you want to, you can swap out the 250 gig SSD for a 1 terabyte Fusion drive. So the Fusion
So it's
drive,
not by default,
it's
but
not
it's an
by
option.
default, but it's
I
an
think that's
option.
fair, and I think 256 is also pretty fair.
It's a bit
Whenever,
stingy. I don't know.
well, I mean, 512 is better, obviously, but
Yeah,
whenever Apple would sell, they do sell Macs with 128, like the Mac Mini has 128, or it did before. I think they might have doubled that.
yeah. The Mac Mini is 256 now.
The MacBook Air was 128. Maybe it's higher now. It might still be 128, but they're
The
okay
Mac
with.
Pro's 256. How about that?
Yeah, but with the 21.5 inch iMac, I mean, I think that fits the market. Like, I could live on a 120 gigabyte device with like external storage, So I think it's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
like
but
my current
it's better
laptop's
than
250.
I would say
Yeah,
128 gigabyte SSD is better than 1 terabyte Fusion drive because you can bring your own spinning disk drives to attach to have a better experience.
yeah. Like with a desktop, I guess it's a lot easier just to plug in hard drives, right?
And leave
Like
them. Mhm.
whereas with a laptop, like you're not going to do that because you always have to plug it in, plug it
You
in, plug it in.
can,
Whereas
right? Yeah.
you can do it, but
Well, you can because you don't move your laptop, but
yeah, like but even me, I don't because it's still painful. I don't know why. Like because you just forget to bring the files with you, I guess. Like whereas with an iMac, it's stationary, so every time you're using the iMac, you're always going to have access to the same peripherals that are right next to you. Like
right.
so, I it is 2020 though, so 256 base is pretty not great. So it's okay, I guess. And the thing I'm more upset about with the 21.5-inch line is that they still don't get the T2 chip. So it's only SSDs at the slower speeds.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's still basically the 21.5-inch iMacs that you could buy a week ago, you now can buy, except they added 256 SSDs instead of the base model hard drives. That's all they changed on the 21.5-inch models. So basically unchanged. The 27.5-inch versions.
I want to do a big reveal here. Let's see. I'm gonna see if we can do a
Oh,
if I can show it off.
this is exciting.
If I can show off the all right. Let's see if I can do this. This is advanced stuff that we're doing. I'm gonna try and reveal. Yeah, there it is. That's the design. That's 27.5 inch. That's 27-inch iMac right there.
Wow, that looks really different.
Yeah, so for our listeners, we're looking at pictures of the brand new 27-inch iMac, which Apple says gets a major update, which I think it's fair. But it's not the new design that we've been thinking about.
Yeah, the design didn't get a major update.
Yeah, it's your favorite design ever.
It's the thing I come to dread. The same design that we've been beladen with since 2012 when they did the side bezels. And then if you want to look face on, the iMac looks the same going back to 2010.
Yeah, if you have to do these frames, I wonder if they literally change the frames of these things or not, or if they just say, "Why would we?"
Well, I mean, they're identical.
And it's the same template as ever.
Yeah. But they have given it the 27.5-inch gets decent spec updates.
Yeah, I think that this is if you ignore what's happening with Apple Silicon and there being new chips on the way, which they've already addressed, we've got new Intel Macs on the pipeline. Here's one of them now. The redesign. What was the source of the redesign this year?
Sonny
or
Dixon.
Sonny Dixon. Okay, so
coming at WWC.
yeah, so it's not we give him a lot of credit, but I think that's not the same as like a KGI or throwback KGI, Ming Chi Kuo, TF International Securities story.
I mean, you've got to hope that a redesign of that nature is coming. He just probably got the timing wrong, right?
Yeah, which is fair to happen. But because this is the first one to get, like, if I think about this thing, the webcam, it's funny that it changed from 720p to 1080p, but it catches up with the iMac Pro from 2017. It catches up with the phones from for the past several years. The design's the same, the peripherals are the same. Spec wise, it's not night and day difference, I don't think. And so
they went to 10th generation Intel CPUs. So you're on the latest gen CPUs. The graphics cards got an update, but they didn't move to the Navi one, which is what was rumored for the the WWC big redesign,
Hmm.
is still kind of like they're newer GPUs, but they're not like cutting edge.
Yeah.
You do get the T2 chip on the 27.5 inch because the 27.5 inch doesn't have any options for spinning disks. It's SSD exclusively, so they are able to put
And
the
they didn't
T2
have
chip.
T2 chips before at all.
No,
Okay.
which is again another incredible laggard of the old of like the iMac's just defined by how late it gets the features that every other every other Mac gets, right? Like they started doing T2 chips with the MacBook Pro in 2016. Like you can name every new feature here, you can just relate to a different product that already did it. They have the studio speakers, studio quality microphones, improved speaker system,
Hmm.
but the improved speakers, the way the newsroom release is worded is a bit ambiguous. They say it's got new speakers, but then when they go into the detailed paragraph for it, they just say that the T2 chip is the audio controller, so it's the one
Okay.
providing better bass and fidelity to the speakers. I don't think the speakers are actually different. They're just the what the speakers are
Yeah,
being
they
driven by now.
say enable variable EQ for better balance, higher fidelity, and deeper bass. And the speakers on an iMac are already really, really good.
Yeah, they
So,
are.
so in
Yeah.
so much as like the 16-inch MacBook is impressive for a notebook, the iMac speakers are like, wow, that's really good. You would downgrade to add like a $20 pair of speakers to it. You had to buy some legitimate speakers to have an
Yeah,
upgraded
the iMac
experience.
speakers are decent, but if you're hearing new speakers and you immediately think the jump from like the old 15-inch Mac Pro to the 16-inch Pro is not going to be like that because it's not a massive overhaul.
That's neat that the T2 is responsible for what the speaker sound can be with possibly the same as like hardware of speaker.
Yeah, the TG does loads of stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that soon will be all incorporated into a single chip when they switch to Apple Silicon. The SSDs, yeah, now it's SSD across the board. Again, even on the 27.5 inch ones, the base models are 256, and then the slightly higher end configs go to 512, which is more reasonable. But the base 27.5 inch is still 256,
Which is more
and
than
then perhaps
128 by 2x.
which is still more than 128. Fair. Perhaps the most interesting option is the Nano-texture glass.
Yeah, this one I'm so excited about because the Nano-texture glass was introduced with the Apple Pro Display XDR, which is a very expensive screen. And then to apply this texture as the option to have the matte finish versus the glossy finish, it's even more expensive. And so to have it just to have it as an option on the legacy designed iMac with this design that will never go away is pretty cool. Like I would not have guessed that would happen. I would have guessed that they'd save that for another version of this. It's the only thing that's interesting to me about this iMac. iMacs are very cool. I mean, the designs are dated, but if you like compare them to other all-in-one PCs on the market, I think they're still very neat. Um, these are better specs than we've had ever before in an iMac. But having this what was it, $500 to have the matte version instead, and it's as far as we know, it's not a difference in the matte version of the Pro Display XDR. It's just less screen size, so it's maybe less money, and that's kind of how they get by with it. But it's the same kind of texture,
Yeah,
same
who knows?
effect.
I mean,
Yeah,
if they can do a 27.5 inch Nano-texture for 500, maybe they could do like a future 16-inch MacBook Pro could have Nano-texture for like a $250 upgrade or something.
yeah, I would buy that. I would do
Yeah,
that.
like
Especially
when it
for
was
outdoor use.
1,000 for on the Pro Display XDR, and people were like, "Oh, I can't wait for this to come to all the Macs." I was like, "Yeah, it'd be cool," but also that's still $1,000. Like it's very expensive. Like
Yeah.
the Pro Display XDR's base price is what $5,000. So the $1,000 extra is like, well, okay, I guess whatever. But when you're looking at the lower end products, like the laptops, if they can do $500 on the iMac, that kind of implies they can also do a price cut for the smaller screens on the laptops too. But a lot of people want it to come to the iPad, and I understand why. Obviously, like people who want to do serious work on the iPad, they get annoyed by the glossy screen. But I'm not actually sure the durability of the Nano-texture glass is suitable for touchscreens because, like with the Pro Display XDR, if you get the Nano-texture option, Apple has a big support document that says you must only clean it with this special cloth that we provide you. You shouldn't use other stuff because you'll damage the screen. And so for an iPad, I can't imagine them just being able to do a Nano-texture display as is because your fingers grubbing all over it 24/7.
Yeah,
So,
the Apple Store display. If this was a normal year, you'd be able to go to an Apple Store and judge the display. Pro Display XDR monitors with this Nano texture. the matte finish and see, okay, this isn't a public environment where anyone can come in and like people are always rotating this thing around and touching it. How is that held up? Unfortunately, we can't really judge that this year because I'm not sure that the store is open right now. The ones that have these, but that would be a pretty good test of like how you don't want to test it on one that you own, but it would be a good test of like just how durable is this in a stored environment because like I think the white HomePod gets that same treatment where it's how durable is it to touch and okay it changes colors if you touch it often.
Yeah, the white humble gets dirty fast.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of everything new. Let's say you're an iMac user. Should you buy this one?
Let's say you're a PC user and you want to switch to a Mac and you want a desktop.
Okay. Should you buy it?
So then,
Should you jump in now?
So then you're like, am I gonna do a Mac Mini? Well, if I've got the peripherals, yes. But that's a really nice screen that comes with the iMac. If you don't care about Nano-texture, then I would highly recommend considering if you're looking for like the best deal in a previous generation model because the older iMacs aren't that outdated in terms of specs. Like they get updated pretty regularly. So to go to the previous generation, if you're not going to go with Nano-texture, then you've got a slightly worse webcam, and you can add your own webcam that can be even better than the one that comes with it, like a 4K webcam if you wanted to. Um, I don't think any of the other changes are that big of a difference. The display that you look at is going to be the biggest difference. And so if you go to that $500 add-on for the Nano-texture, then it's like, I think this is actually a pretty compelling thing, even with what's coming in the future, even with a quote unquote redesign of some type, lingering out there, because Nano-texture is like, it's the entire screen, it's what you see. That would like I think I would put money on one of those with the understanding that these things also keep their resale value. And if you really were compelled to upgrade to an Apple Silicon version, then you could say, well, I will sell this thing, and get the new thing. It isn't like it's going to be half its value, after you open the box.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. And, like, obviously, if you need a new computer, these ones are going to be perfectly fine. They'll be supported for years. If you need an iMac, go and get one. If you're just like, oh, my iMac's 4 or 5 years old and, I'm time for the upgrade, I personally would tell anyone that asks me, hold out for as long as you can. Like, because I don't think you're even going to have to wait that long. Like, what, 6 months, a year? Quo's already said that the iMac's going to be one of the first Macs to go to Apple Silicon alongside the 13-inch MacBook Pro. Quo said it was going to be a 24-inch iMac, right? And like,
Well, so maybe that won't compare though to the 27-inch. It'll be a
maybe
replacement for the 21
okay.
inch.
Well,
So.
I think Apple's going to kind of want to come out with quite a lot of bang. So
Yeah.
even if you're buying like the base, like maybe the super high end options, like the really like i9 CPUs that they're not going to be ready to usurp within the first 6 months. But if you're just the kind of person going for like the base model CPUs and stuff, I feel pretty confident that the Apple Silicon that's going in the desktop is going to be able to at least match it, if not beat it. And there's high chances that that same machine is going to look entirely new, and you're going to actually have a modern design that's worthy of 2020 with slim bezels and the like, right? Like, the problem with the iMac at the moment is it's kind of like buying a tombstone. Like, everything's just old about it. And, like, the only reason half these updates are major is because they didn't do it before. Like, none of the things, apart from, Nano-texture glass, are new or novel to the iMac. They're just bringing along things that the other machines have got, right? So if you have to upgrade now, then I guess go for it. But
You've got to spend $2,300 to get Nano-texture.
yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah.
Are you going to feel bad in 6 months' time when there's a super thin bezel Apple,
With Nano-texture.
Apple Silicon Mac running 24-inch iMac that, maybe it's only 10% slower, but look how cool it looks and look how much better it is because it's running on Apple Silicon. You can get the entire suite of iOS apps on there as well. Like,
Yeah, if you're like me and your interest is just in the Nano-texture for the first time, not being in a $5,000 or $6,000 display, then 2,300 for the whole new computer with only 8 GB of RAM, that's pretty tough.
yeah, like it's
Like I think the processor is fine for that price. The 10,
Yeah.
6-core 10th gen i5, like that's good. And you could, well, it's $200 to do the RAM upgrade through Apple. Can you upgrade that RAM on your own?
on the 27.5-inch models, you still can add.
That's always an important detail of these things. Yeah.
Yeah, so at least for now, the 27.5-inch one has still got upgradable RAM. The SSDs are soldered on the board, so if you need more storage, you've got to buy that up front.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that we'd spend all the time talking about how the design's the same because we both think that it's way overdue.
It is way
It's
overdue.
way over.
Like
Yeah.
the iMac's due for an overhaul,
Uh-huh. And it probably has one coming very
and it
soon.
probably has one coming, which is like, why would you buy this one? It's
Yeah.
if you're like forced to and you don't have any other options, then I guess you're going to be satisfied. But I think the really cool one, the one that you're going to feel glad to spend $2,300 on, is only just around the corner.
Yeah. If you were to buy this thing today, by the way, it's with Nano-texture glass, then it would be the third week of August at the soonest, maybe the fourth
Okay.
week of August when it arrives. Because I think these things went pretty fast in terms of ship dates slipping back for the Nano-texture glass.
Right, so you're
Um,
basically already in September. At that
yeah.
point, you wait 1 month, you have the October Apple event where they're probably going to announce the first Apple Silicon Macs. Like,
At least the
say,
MacBook. But
yeah,
yeah.
well, maybe it's just the MacBook, right? But okay, if you wait till October and then it's like, oh, they're only doing a laptop, even though, like Quo said, the iMac's coming too, like,
Yeah.
and then you do a laptop, okay, maybe you want to buy one because then 2021 still feels a long time away, right? But
Oh, yeah,
it just feels kind of stupid to
yeah.
jump in now in August, like if you don't actually need one. That'd
What
be
I'm
my
gonna
opinion.
do is I'm gonna look at our drafts on 9 to 5 Mac and see if we have anything cool coming. Uh, as I think, yeah, I think Jeff Benjamin has video coming. I think he has the matte version, and if I'll just watch that and be satisfied. Like,
Yeah, watch this video and be
yeah,
happy.
just watch his
Yeah.
video. Yeah, there's a hands-on. He does the entry level one, so I guess that's
Like
not the glass, but um,
like the iMac at the end of the day is a non-upgradable box, right? So when you want to be buying this non-upgradable box, you want it to be shiny, new, and modern, and then get all the conveniences of an integrated machine and a beautiful display and everything. But like you said, if you just need an iMac today, you're probably better off value for money wise just getting one of the last generation models because they'll be cheaper. Like, and if you don't, and if you really don't need to upgrade right now, but you just want a new iMac, just hold on. That'd be my best advice to. That'd be what I do. Like,
Jeff says that if you're buying the iMac and you can just eliminate ambient lighting, then save $500. So, and he's someone who has the Pro Display XDR, so
just turn your light off and you'll be happy.
yeah, he can make
So
that call.
another iMac update goes by where the design's still the same with the massive bezels. Full stop.
There's a lot of room if you're into stickering your Macs and stuff. There's a lot of room for stickering the front of that iMac. You wanted to decorate it because you could put a bunch of stickers on that chin and the foot. I would if this was like on sale, if it was like under $2,000, like for the display, because we'd buy like an Apple display. We'd spend too much money on an Apple display. I think it was like $1,800, and you could get a Nano-texture. If you get Nano-texture and a 21.5 inch, then I just really want to have the Apple matte screen.
Yeah, but just wait till the end of the year and you might have the Apple Matte
Yeah,
screen and a much
yeah.
better
I mean,
product.
don't worry. I'm not buying one of these. Uh,
Good, good, good.
yeah, yeah.
What do
But
you like? Can we just agree that the fact that the iMac has lasted an entire decade with the same design is like a blot on their history and it's like a black mark, right? Like, you can't let their only consumer Mac desktop lag behind so much. I mean, they've done it, but it just feels bad.
I think that the and say the spinning hard drives and even the fusion drives. So by fixing that, by correcting that mistake, that's more important to me than the case design because the case isn't bad. It's just old. The bezels are thick and like there's nothing modern about that. But in terms of just like a piece of it doesn't like look out of date compared to the 16-inch MacBook Pro, for example.
I don't know. I don't
Well, I mean,
know.
it looks like the same, same materials and everything. It's just that that bezel is different, but it's also a different, screen size, so it's like kind of proportionate. Um,
I mean, they only just this year got rid of
mhm.
spinning hard drives. So, like, you can't even give them much credit for that either. It's like,
No.
they just barely got in under the wire.
And it's just illustrative of the focus being on mobile computers, but
Yeah.
whether it's a phone, an iPad, or a MacBook of some type. So it is what it is. And then we talked about the iMac Pro already, so that it's nothing new there. It's just a higher base there. Um, so let's talk about this next thing, which is Phil Schiller. He's he's becoming an Apple Fellow, which is Apple's headline for he's letting go of much of his responsibility at the company after I think like 3 decades at the company. Um, but Phil Schiller is Apple's senior vice president of marketing, which for Apple is special because it kind of means like he's one of the few faces who speak for Apple, and kind of make a lot of the decisions about like what does Apple look like from from the outside in.
And what products they make. Like
And
marketing is not just advertising.
yeah,
They have the advertising group, which is part of marketing, but senior vice president vice president of worldwide marketing at Apple is basically like product development as much as it is advertising,
he's a
as well
very
as like
hands-on
brand,
person.
as
Yeah,
well as brand and stuff. Like
yeah.
back in the day, Schiller did like the click wheel, for instance, and throughout the iPhone development, they were consulting with Schiller on like what to do and stuff. Like people imagine it just being like Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive stuck in their room together and they just make all these incredible inventions over that decade. But that wasn't reality. Like the entire executive team have a lot of input, and Schiller's like been the bastion for that and the one that's kind of survived. But like for no longer.
Yeah, yeah, and so he retains his involvement in sort of producing Apple's events, which certainly falls into that SVP of marketing role. It's just that there's so few of those that okay, I'll do three of those a year or whatever. He retains App Store leadership, which came from Eddie Q to Schiller. And then in that time under Schiller, App Stores had a bunch of changes, like having the editorial side, having lots and lots of new rules and ways
Ability for developers to reply to reviews,
to make exactly
faster app review times. Like
it's very much
Schiller
like
took,
the App Store is not like it's controversial as it can be. It's not like a dead thing. It's like a living. It changes all the time throughout the year.
yeah, exactly.
Every
Yeah.
year.
And when Schiller took over in 2016, and his period of like oversight can only be seen as a success for the App Store because they've added new features almost every year, and it's got better and better, and developers are much happier with the state of the App
There's
Store.
even a new Mac App Store under Schiller.
Yeah, there's a new Mac App Store. Like all of the antitrust stuff, all of those rules. It's not like Schiller introduced them in 2016. Most of them date back to 2010. Like
Yeah, you could argue it's only gotten better under Schiller, with new ways to if you have a subscription and if it's held for 1 year, it drops from a 30% cut to Apple to 15.
Right, yeah.
That's less restrictive. That's under Schiller's leadership. So it's gotten better, but all the things that are problematic, and with iOS 14, you've got you can have third-party web browsers or mail clients. That's technically under Schiller and App Store. But yeah, all the things that are being tested legally right now they predate Schiller taking over, and they're really like Steve Jobs era. This is the App Store. But he wasn't hands off with that either. Like he will defend these positions. I'm sure he informed these positions.
I mean, we saw in the emails that we talked about last week that like you could see Schiller, Q, Forstall, and Jobs in the massive email thread where they're literally hashing out the rules for the originals in-app purchase subscriptions, and they're like, this will define the App Store, and everyone's going to have to move to this model, and it's going to have massive ramifications. And they all agreed on it at the time, 9 years ago.
Yeah. Do you think they use iMessage for that now these days?
I mean, they might do, because I assume if they do that, then discovery of like legal stuff can't even find it.
Yeah, because it's.
I don't know if there's like a corporate responsibility where you have to keep documentation, because if all businesses just changed over to like
something that expires,
encrypted communication, there'd be nothing for a lawsuit or an investigation to ever bring up. So that isn't.
Yeah.
So maybe they should stop using email.
I mean, it's interesting either way. But even things like recently, with the Hey email situation, he was out in the press defending Apple's position right before WWDC, like unapologetically.
Yeah, but he's not like people like to blame Schiller now because
he's the
face of it, right?
Yeah.
But he's not standing there on his own like, I believe in this, I'm steadfast in it, and everyone else at Apple is just like trying to bat him down and get him out, and they're like disagreeing. There's big internal arguments. Like, no, they all believe in the same thing. And so,
by the way, I really like Phil Schiller.
Schiller's great. Like, as we'll get to in a second, like
he's like classic Apple. He's classic Apple, but he survived classic Apple into the age of like modern Apple, and you can see like the Phil Schiller who jumps off of a high ledge to demonstrate Wi-Fi on a notebook, all the way to Schiller these days with like longer hair a little bit and like just talking about modern things. He's a big part of Apple. So I like him a lot. I think he's approachable. I think he's flexible and that his mind can change. Um, I don't know. That's
Yeah, like the
I'm
it's
not
kind
too
of
sure about his replacement.
it's kind
I'll say in a moment.
yeah, like the obviously it's come to a fore at the moment with all the App Store antitrust stuff, but like the App Store antitrust problems were brewing before Schiller took the top job of the App Store, right? Like you can't lay it at his shoulders. It's not fair. Like
Yeah.
it's not substantive. You can blame Apple, right? If you hate the App Store policies and we, very critical of some parts of them, you have to blame Apple collectively. If you want to, you can blame Tim Cook because ultimately he's the CEO, right? But people are like, oh, Tim Cook just likes the money, so that's why they're doing this. Like, Jobs agreed on all of this stuff, and it's only become a massive
It
problem.
would be more stringent under Jobs today. Like
Yeah, probably. It's only become a massive problem because Apple's been so successful. The App Store now makes billions and billions and billions of dollars every month, so it becomes a huge deal, and they have to
Right.
worry about it, right? Like that's why it's become such a big problem nowadays. But Schiller, like I think it's unfortunate timing. Like there's obviously Schiller's half retiring here, right? And sometimes when Apple executives
Like
leave,
9/10 retiring.
yeah, yeah, exactly, 9/10 retiring.
Yeah.
So, which is I'd say 1/10 less than how Johnny Ive retired. But
Yeah. Yeah, before you even left, like
yeah,
yeah.
and so you can see the timeline and think, oh, this can't be a coincidence. Schiller's the fool guy here for all these App Store problems. That doesn't make any sense. If Apple was trying to defend against upcoming antitrust legislation or upcoming government, restrictions, what they would do is fire the guy, being nice, right? A nice firing.
Uh-huh.
They wouldn't still say he's still in head of the App Store, and they'd change policies.
That are the only thing that people point to as
Yeah,
as
they literally
reasons for him
go.
to
We love him running the App Store. We're going to let him carry on doing it in this incredible new role. Like if you wanted to PR a firing about this stuff, you would get him out the door, right? And then you wouldn't mention the App Store at all. It wouldn't come up. And then a week later, some App Store rules will start to change. And then if their law comes along, they can be like, oh yeah, this was shit. We already got rid of him. And
And by the way, you don't fire Phil Schiller. Like
You don't. Right.
yeah, like Forstall, like that was a raw deal. That was directly from Tim Cook to Forstall. It was like it was right out in the open. The Schiller is like part of Apple's DNA in a way that Johnny Ive is, in a way that Steve Jobs is.
Yeah, and Tim Cook completely backs Schiller on the state of the App Store situation. He did it in
Congress,
the antitrust
yeah.
hearing last week.
Yeah.
Like, if Apple was really having a change of heart, they would have fired Schiller a month ago. It's not like this was a massive surprise. They knew the antitrust hearing was coming up. They'd have got rid of someone big, right? They could have fired Q if you want to. You could fire Schiller, blah, blah, blah. Or even because these are the SVPs, right? There are VPs that we don't hear about that are like head of the App Store and stuff. They could have got rid of that guy, or do something like that, and then do some policy changes before they even got to the antitrust hearing that was publicly televised and stuff. But none of that happened. They're obviously sticking their heels in the ground, and they're going to fight it to the end. So people saying, "Oh, they get rid of Schiller just because of the antitrust stuff," is completely ridiculous. So Schiller's 60 years old. He just wants to retire with his bundles of money and have time with his family, and still contribute to Apple in some ways, like running the events.
And
That's
I totally get that. Like
Yeah.
he has served Apple,
And he's done a great job at it.
Yeah.
He's had a great run. Like
right. He has a lasting legacy at Apple.
the iPod, great product. ClickWheel, incredible invention that was basically driven by Schiller's suggestion. The iPhone, fantastic. Schiller is all over that product. Like people will imagine it as Steve Jobs' baby. Schiller helped a lot. Like the keyboard. Ken Kashenda's story about how the iPhone keyboard came to be, Schiller was one of the reasons that they didn't ship a keyboard that was split into 8 segments. Schiller was like, this is too complicated. You need to go and improve it. Yeah. Right? Like that contributions span through the entire product line. I think you see it in the MacBook Pros. I think you see it in the Mac Pro even. Like Schiller gets it. He's a great guy. And I said when Johnny Ive retired last year that, the impact on the loss to Apple will probably be bigger if someone like Schiller left because he embodies the culture in so many ways.
That.
Yeah, and I still believe that. Like,
And it's good that he's not. I mean, this is him retire. This is him becoming a fellow, and he's essentially retired from his job because Jaws now takes that position. But he's not gone though. Like he'll in terms of like commentary and like giving his view of Apple, such like the Apple in the world. Like he will be available for that. I don't see him disappearing at all. Like
No, he's
he
like
is a
a
well-spoken person who can translate like complicated issues into simple, ways to understand, and
yeah,
he'll
he's gone
still
from
be
like a full
present.
time stressful job to like a part time consultancy role, basically. And I'm sure,
And he's earned it. Yeah.
yeah, and he's earned it, right? And I'm sure in the fullness of time, they will find a new head of the App Store, maybe
Sure.
public, and at some point he'll probably
And it's
stop.
probably a good thing because there were so many things that were getting put on Schiller, including PR recently, whenever the previous head of PR left without a replacement. And there, it moved to Schiller. And that hasn't really been addressed in this retirement. I guess it moves to Jaws, maybe, or it just moves to whoever the people who are actually like doing day to day stuff were. And there'll be a new head of PR in the future at some point. But so much stuff got put under Schiller as like a course correction. Now Schiller can fix it. It used to be that way with Eddie Q, where like things got put under Eddie Q until it was like too much, and now the entertainment division is just so full with services that Schiller became that go-to person, even saving App Store policy from Eddie
Yeah,
Q. And that's because he's like a megastar and can handle it. Any other like normal executive would need to be like two people, three people with their own teams and organizations under him to handle the same task. I think.
yeah. I don't think you should remember Schiller as anything but great. Like
Mhm.
he had a great run. He contributed some incredible ideas to the company, and he ran an incredible brand. And one of the reasons Apple is so successful today is their branding, is their like public-facing approach to the world. And you don't get to be the biggest company in the world without like incredible branding, incredible, marketing in every sense of the world. It's not just making adverts, right? Like it's such a good deal.
Yeah, Schiller. One of my favorite stories. There's many stories I can't really share, I guess, yet. But one is that Schiller emailed for caption photo credit a few years ago, and it was like I think Tim Cook took a picture at a baseball game in like Fenway Park, and it was like taken on an iPhone. And it was like a pretty good picture, and like we posted about it. It was like shot on an iPhone kind of thing, uh, or maybe he took it. I don't know. One of them took it, and like he emailed directly to ask for photo credit for the like it's like. And I guess it was like in the bottom, it was like buried photo credit, but not like in the caption. But that's just like that level of like just down to earth communication on such a simple thing is neat, you know.
Yeah,
Jaws, the new guy. I mean,
Jaws.
Jaws has been like his right hand man for a long time, and that's why Jaws has this position now. But they're very different people, and I can't describe Jaws in the same way. You know, maybe we'll see it now, but it's not like Jaws is like a black box, like a mystery. We have seen Jaws over the years in product videos, in interviews, and my read is that he's a little bit less soft than Schiller in terms of being flexible and seeing all sides and communicating in a way that isn't just kind of the company line. So
Yeah, I
I'm
think Schiller had a very sharp edge internally when he had his opinion on something. Like I think all the Apple executives do. Like whoever you think's friendly, you know, when you're executive at that level, you have to have that decisiveness and that abruptness to actually be successful, right? But Schiller definitely did a better job of portraying the public persona of being all happy chappy, right? I think Jaws is more like to the point and focused. Like, he, I don't think he's quite as personable.
well, and I one thing that slightly bothered me about this chain of command is I know why it happened. It's that Schiller goes into retirement, moves on, and then his right hand man has been Jaws, and so it's like that's like the natural order of succession, I guess. But I also see it as like Schiller's turning 60. He's 60 now, whatever. Jaws is what did we find out? 5 years younger.
Yeah, Jaws is 56.
Yeah, my guess was like maybe 10 years younger, but I think that's just because he leaves like his top button undone more. They're essentially the same age, and so insofar as Schiller is aging out of his role to enjoy the rest of his life with less pressure, Jaws is not far behind.
Yeah, they're not given that much leeway.
Like and I do think that it's kind of a weird thing where you see we saw Apple executives come and go in the last 10 years where you've got new faces that come. Angela Ahrendts is an example where you have a fresh new face come and kind of just add to modern Apple, but then for whatever reason decided not to stay in the long term. She served her role for several years and then left. Um, and it's a good thing that she was replaced internally. I think that made sense. When you saw Johnny Ive's sort of half retirement and then eventual like actual departure, there's not a whole lot of like elevating new voices. We met a few new designers, but it's nothing on the level of exposure of Johnny Ive. And so I think in that case, you've got a legacy person leaving, and there's not someone that like one person that fills the void or like a whole team that you regularly promote. And so it kind of with Jaws fulfilling or filling in Schiller's role, it's like okay, but like what what about after Jaws? Is there not someone? I guess he's the most senior person, so that's it. It comes to him, but
Yeah,
I'm
like
very curious. Like
Schiller
who?
was SVP of Worldwide Product Marketing, and Joz was VP, so he was like the
Yeah.
one directly in the
So I guess
hierarchy.
the question is who becomes the next VP,
Right.
and do they use this opportunity to, make a more diverse Apple? Is there already that opportunity now that they're using? Because if you recall, at these annual shareholders meetings, one things that shareholders would try to have passed is a forced motion to make the executive team more diverse, and Apple's always voted against it because it would take like either adding new roles or replacing existing people, and it's like that's not possible. It's something that we're really going to do. This is an example of someone leaving, and they could replace them with someone that's more diverse. It's not they replaced a white guy with a white guy, and I get that Jaws is the next person in line, but I do wonder. When the next opportunity will be. Are they already thinking about that? Because they certainly want to promote that message, but this is an action, and there's kind of no surprise in what they did, except that it's the surprising thing to me is that it's someone similarly aged, and it's a whole lot more mileage out of the person, unless Jaws just wants to work even until he's older than Schiller was or is.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't take the opportunity to name the new VP, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
So.
Joz isn't on the Apple leadership page yet, so maybe those announcements are to come when that actually finishes and becomes official, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, maybe so. I'm
I
very
was
curious about
thinking
it.
you were saying about like leadership and who's come in from the outside and actually stayed around. I think
Mm-hmm.
the only one on this page is Johnny Sarugi, because he came over as part of the acquisition of PA Semi, which was the A4 chip back in 2010. So he's actually stayed the test of time now, and now
Yeah.
he's senior vice president for Harvard Technologies. But I think everyone else on the SVP page is like a long timer, and
Right.
Apple's going to increasingly face this problem as all of these people turn 60 and older.
Yeah.
That they're going to want to retire, and they need fresh blood.
It's
to
not
run the
this that
show.
it's a bunch of white guys on the page, it's that it's a bunch of older white guys on the page.
Right, like they're gonna age out of these jobs.
Yeah.
They're gonna lots of them are gonna want to be like Schiller very soon. They've done most of them have committed 30
I
years,
mean,
20
Johnny
years.
did. Like Johnny aged out. He served so much time at the company that he got bored essentially. But I mean, if he were 30 years younger, I don't think that'd be the case. I think he'd want to keep doing this thing. It's just that he's at a certain age now that he can do whatever he wants, and so he is. Same thing for Schiller now. He can do whatever he wants, so he is.
Yeah, and I tweeted a picture on Wednesday that was taken when the iPhone was just launched, and it was the Apple executive team picture. And so it was Johnny Ive, Steve Jobs, Scott Forstall, Tony Fadell, and Eddie Q, and Phil Schiller.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one of them that's still there today is Q.
Mm-hmm.
And Q's pretty old, and he's been at Apple since like 1987 or something insane. So
Yeah.
it doesn't seem out of too much speculation that he's might be the next one to go at some point.
Yeah, you could see one of speaking of a bunch of white guys, you could see one of the Sony dudes being the next person in line for Q's job.
Yeah, possibly. Or the they have the head of that they got from a cable network, Peter
yeah.
Stern. He presented at the March event as well. Like he might take Q's job for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some iPhone 12 stuff for a moment, and then we'll see if we have any Q&A on YouTube. And by the way, thanks to Gigabyte World for the super chat there. That's really appreciated. That's $5.49 in Canadian money, which is a thing that you can do to have your chat rise to the top. So that's very cool. iPhone 12 stuff. So there's an OLED screen, which I think the angling on this is that it's an OLED screen. It's for the iPhone 12. Does that mean it's for the iPhone 11 replacement, or does it mean that's like for the 12 Pro?
We're not sure.
Okay, we're not sure. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a question I had then.
Because obviously
Okay.
all the iPhone 12s are OLED. So
Yeah.
we
Okay.
don't know which one.
Okay.
I don't think we know which size this is.
But at least that's a good thing to remind everyone is that this year, even the base model, like the iPhone 11 replacement, will have the same screen type as the iPhone 11 Pros did, and
Yeah,
so in that
looking
case,
at the image and comparing the size of the Face ID module to the size of the body, I'm pretty sure it's the 6.1-inch phone. It's
Okay.
not the 6.7.
okay,
And
cool.
it looks too big
Nice.
to be 5.4. But that is actually what I'm drawing your attention to in this photo,
Yeah.
because the Face ID module is sadly the same size as what we're used to today. So the rumors that we were going to get a slightly smaller notch this year are quickly becoming incorrect, because these part leaks seem to suggest that the notch will be exactly the same size.
I bought a motorcycle jacket the other day. Like three now. I don't know how that happened. But on the inside of part of the jacket, it has a pocket for your phone. It's like a weatherproof pocket, and it has an outline of like the iPhone 10, with the notch. And it just made me think, like, wow. I mean, for a motorcycle jacket to have that symbol be the symbol for a phone, you know, the notch definitely played into like Apple's sort of like making that phone shape be iconic, because the shape of the phone is the same as every other phone. The only thing different is that it has a notch, which is like it's not because you want one. It's because it's you have to have sensors there to have Face ID and everything and a speaker. But that is so iconic into like even the silhouette of a phone these days, that it can be on a jacket pocket and represent a phone in general.
And then the other part situation with the iPhone 12 this week is an interesting rumor, I guess we call it, because it's not 100% confirmed yet, from Everything Apple Pro, which is showing some photos that are alleged to show a circular ring of magnets that is apparently going to be inside the iPhone 12 chassis, and it appears to be placed about where the wireless charging coil is in the phone. So I guess there's going to be some sort of accessory that it can like snap onto and very quickly mount to and charge, maybe like a new wireless charging accessory from Apple to go along with the iPhone 12.
Just my random guess would be that there's a line of photography accessories that are attached magnetically, flash based, not like Adobe Flash based, but like a flash, for example, different kind of, because they've made recent developments there with like made for iPhone accessories, and I think you can even buy at least one thing where it has like special camera integration or something. So to do that, maybe you'd have like one or two accessories that Apple promotes, and that they like work with a partner on before the phone comes out, and that's part of the story of like the new iPhone is look, now you can use this other kind of flash, or what other something else you could imagine.
Yeah, because in the iPad Pro they have all these magnets for the Magic Keyboard accessory, right?
Sure,
And
yeah.
that lets you do that. So
Yeah.
maybe there's some kind of dock or cool stand or something that they're preparing this ring for. Like at Ming-Chi Kuo earlier this year did say that Apple was working on a new smaller wireless charging pad, and if it was magnetic, then I guess you could
Have it be
avoid some of
upright?
you could avoid, well, he'd be right, and you'd avoid some of the problems that people have with like it, slipping off or being
Alignment.
annoying to align. Exactly, yeah.
It could even be a portrait orientation, or it could even, instead of being flat, it could be upright. And speaking of Quo, there's something I wanted to mention earlier and just like throw out there. But do you remember whenever there was a new iMac rumored and it had like a new screen technology or something?
Oh, yeah.
And that was from Quo, and we guessed it was like True Tone for the MacBook Pro, and it wasn't for the iMac. I was wondering yesterday. I was driving around. I was thinking, I wonder if Quo meant this nano-texture screen.
Nano-texture.
It's like the new screen technology for an iMac, because here it is.
Maybe that's fitting the dots after they've already been drawn.
It certainly is. It's been that long, yeah.
It's been too long. I think Quo just got that one wrong.
Yeah, me too.
Even Quo put too much faith in there being a major iMac update sometime soon.
Yeah, that's right. Some serious
iPhone
thing.
12 magnetic ring, pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe there'll be a cool flash that you can add onto the back of there, or a whole new category of cases from Apple. We'll see. Let's take a look at some of the chat that we've had for the last hour and see if there's any cool questions that we can answer for folks. One of the first things that came in was before we started recording, someone asked if they should update to the public beta for all of iOS 14. If here's what I think. I think if you're a person who is okay with doing a beta, then you're curious, so go for it. There aren't show-stopping issues unless you play Pokemon Go that are gonna like wreck your world. And I do the beta on my work Mac and my work phone, and I don't have complaints. Like I've traveled and survived, so I think it's okay if you're that curious. So just go for it. That's what the public beta is for. I think if some people will tell you it's strictly for like finding bugs and reporting bugs, and testing your apps on unreleased software. I think there's also an element of it that is just like try the new thing earlier, and if that's what you want to do, go for it.
Yeah, someone was asking about the September event. Well, for a start, the September event isn't confirmed, and given Apple said that the iPhone's not coming until October, I think there's a decent chance they're going to hold the product event till October as well. Like if it's
Or late September.
Yeah, or late September. I mean, if it's
Yeah.
shipping the first week of October, the phone,
Mhm.
then they're still doing an event in September, obviously. But if they said a few weeks later, and last year they shipped on the 22nd, that's at least the middle of October. So like
Yeah.
the first week of October events is where I'd be like placing my bets. And of course, it's still going to be all virtual because it's
Yeah,
not going to
I
happen.
could see a week 3 September event, like around the 21st or so.
Okay.
Usually, and then 2 weeks later would be the first week of October to release new things, if that's the time frame, or the last week of September, and then the third or second week of October. I could see that happening, just based on what they've said so far on the earnings call, for example. And that would still be a September event because they're usually so early in the month that they could go to the end of the month and still have October releases. Especially if there's something that's not the phone that's ready to go, like a new Mac, for example. It won't be one of those years. I cannot imagine being one of those years where there's 2 fall events. Those are rare, but they do
Right,
happen.
yeah.
This year, no way.
Yeah, they'll have the product event, and then if they have some random other products they didn't get to in the product event, they'll just do briefings and videos and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gianni asks, what will the iPhone 12 look like?
The
Imagine
iPhone
an
11.
iPhone 11 that's OLED on every model, and the sides are flat rather than curved. That's
Yeah, and
what's
the
coming.
Pro model, the Pro is smaller. The Pro Max is bigger. Is that right?
Right, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's complicated. There's 4 iPhone 12s. They're all OLED screens. There's going to be a 5.4-inch model, but that'll only have 2 cameras on the back. There'll then be a 6.1-inch model that'll only have 2 cameras on the back. Then there'll be a new 6.1-inch model that has all the 3-camera system and the LiDAR scanner. And then there'll be the 6.7-inch model that is the 3-camera LiDAR scanner and OLED screen, and that's the new big one. So I guess the new Pro models are going to be the 6.1-inch and 6.7-inch because they'll have, the full camera arrays.
Yeah. To me, anything with OLED is good, and they'll all have OLED, so that is very good. I'm happy about that. Should I buy a Pixel 4a or wait for the iPhone 12 Max? Wait for the iPhone 12 Max. This is what you come here for.
What podcast are we on?
Yeah. Is the Pixel 4a, what is that? Is that
That's the iPhone SE compare like $350.
Yeah, so then it would be, should I buy the iPhone SE or the Pixel 4a, and even still
I mean, the Pixel 4a is decent. Like, it has a better screen and stuff.
What's
than
the one where
SE.
they just like discontinued it after less than a year?
That's the Pixel 4.
The Pixel
yeah.
4. So the A is the modifier, so the flagship is what's gone. And
Yeah, the A was only announced this week.
Okay, so they haven't discontinued the one from this week yet.
Yeah, the one they announced this week was the $350 cheap one. They discontinued the Pixel 4 line, the big one, and then they were the ones that compete against like the iPhone 11, iPhone 11 Pro.
Yeah.
Just 'cause I
Jensen
don't think
Jaren
they sell
asked,
very well.
will the iPhone have 128 hertz? So that would be, what do they call it? ProMotion?
ProMotion,
Like we have on the iPad Pro. I think that you're someone who feels strongly that it ought to.
It should.
But is it rumored? I don't think it's rumored.
Well, there's been sketchy rumors about it, but nothing concrete. So I'm not expecting it. Let me put it that way. As much as it should add it.
Okay. And finally, when are AirPods Studio going to be released? Our good friend Cletus Vetus has the money set aside and wants them so bad. Well, I mean,
Soon, I hope.
the money isn't going anywhere. we know more about them like this time this year than we did this time last year, because
Yeah.
there's been the whole Mark Gurman Bloomberg reports about magnetic interchangeable styles and all kinds of different things. So
Yeah, they're supposedly on track for a full release, so I guess maybe October.
yeah, Cool. All right, that is the Happy Hour podcast for the week. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe on YouTube at 9 to 5 Mac at youtube.com/9 to 5 Mac, or you can subscribe to Happy Hour on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on Overcast, wherever you hear podcasts. If you enjoy the show, you can also leave us a review, and that helps more people discover the show. And if you have any feedback, you can join us live on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern and give us a question on YouTube, or you can email us at happyhour@9to5mac.com. And both Benjamin and I will see the email and hopefully get back to you. With that being said, we will be back next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.